great, big, beautiful world out there. And here I sit, sucking on popsicles.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Imbasciani Chronicles. I'm your host, Mike Imbasciani. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. See a whole bunch of videos on here, live gig videos, reaction videos, the Imbasciani Chronicles podcast, the Loft Session videos, and many more fun things to come. And everything on this channel is sponsored by Rattlesnake Cable Company, made in the USA in Missoula, Montana. So if you're a musician out there, you will never find a better cable than Rattlesnake Cable Company. Check out the affiliate link down below and go get yourself a cable. So this time of year can be stressful, and you want to avoid those heart attacks, believe me. So we have a very special guest on today's episode. Her name is Mary Yuter, and she has this great quote here saying, "There is no reason cardiac disease should be the #1 cause of death in the USA when it is reversible and 80% preventable." So we're going to talk to Mary and get into it. Mary, how are you? Merry Christmas.
Hey, Merry Christmas, Mike. Thank you so much for having me on.
Of
Yeah,
course.
I'm excited about today.
Excellent.
Because this will fit in with young people alike, to give them information for their arsenal. And also, I know you have a lot of musicians watching this, and they travel a lot. And these are strategies, like a tactical way to approach, hey, I'm going to travel. What can I do to prevent an event?
Right.
And nobody's exempt, really. So let's go. We're going to talk about high cardiac season. Right now, between Christmas and New Year's, most heart attacks occur on, what do you think, what day?
Well, with all the stress, I would think somewhere around Christmas.
Yeah, exactly, on Christmas Day. And then the next...
On the day itself, on Christmas Day itself.
On the day, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's brewing Christmas Eve. It's starting
Yeah.
Christmas Eve. And then the day after Christmas, and then the third highest day is New Year's Day.
New Year's Day, really?
Yes, and then the days after the time changes. So let's talk about high cardiac season during the holidays and how we can prevent it. So what do we do during cardiac season? Are we gavoning? Are we like enjoying, like eat, drink, and be merry?
Yeah.
And we're traveling.
Yeah, it's the travel, it's the family that's coming to town, and, you know, having to be maybe around some of the family you don't necessarily get along with. And
stress.
Yeah,
exactly.
lots of stress.
All of these things combine, and we're going to hit different talking points.
Okay.
Then we're going to do a little case study on James Gandolfini and his untimely death at age 51 of a heart attack. He's like one of my favorite actors, and I'm still grieving that loss, because if he had employed certain tactical strategies, he might still be around today.
Well, before we get into that, I want to get into just your background, because you're an RN. Okay. You're from you've worked in New York City. Kind of tell us about where you got started and what you've been doing.
Sure. So I was a cardiac intensive care unit nurse at Bellevue Hospital in New York City. And this was the highest awarded cardiac unit for the city of New York, for all the city hospitals.
Yeah.
And we took care of everyone from, so it was a trauma center. So we took care of everyone from the homeless, the undocumented, to having rooms cleared in case a presidential nominee had an event when they were in town.
Right.
I've taken care of anybody from a Tibetan monk to the head of counterterrorism.
Wow. Yeah, New York City is certainly the smorgasbord of people.
It absolutely is. And, you know, there's a baseline there that everybody got sick with the same things. And it could be preventable. And, you know, we've had heart disease as the #1 cause of death in our country for decades. 1 in 4 people will die of it.
Wow.
And I was just talking to someone last night at dinner, and I said, you know, look around the room, 1 in 4 people are going to die of this. And in our country, 1 person every 36 seconds dies of heart disease. I am crusading for this because my father and mother both died of heart attacks, and my brother died of cardiac disease. And this was before I became a nurse. And then when I saw what happened in Western medicine, I said, well, this is not enough. The needle's not moving.
Yeah.
We have more drugs, more procedures, new doctors being trained, but cardiac disease is still staying number one.
Right.
Are people deficient in a statin in their body? Are they deficient in a beta blocker? No, they're not. So let's dig a little bit deeper in all this. And
Yeah,
my
definitely.
hat today says resist, and we're going to resist some of these temptations because right now is separation season. So people can take their foot off the gas on their health and go, "Oh, I'm just going to have this party and that party and
Right.
Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, New Year's." And they let the horses' reins go
Yeah, and they
on their
think
health.
when they go into the new year, it's the New Year resolution, and they'll change it in the new year. And it's funny you say that because I just had a conversation with a friend of mine on the last podcast, and he had said he lost over 100 pounds. And it's not about a New Year's resolution; it's a New Year's solution, and you can change it anytime. And it's about it seems every podcast we're having this like positive mentality, but it's so important, and I think you'll get into really the reasons why and what you can do to prevent these sort of things.
Yeah, let's do that. And I like that. I like that too. I like that saying a lot. So high cardiac season. So what do? We overeat and overdrink.
Yeah.
So overeating fatty foods in particular. And what does that do? It clogs up our blood. Over drinking can cause hypertension and dehydration. Smoking. So you might have quit smoking, but now you're going out to have a cigar or smoke. And I want to say resist, but I also want to say don't deprive. And we're going to talk about strategies where we can kind of reach a happy medium.
Yeah.
But smoking will cause hypertension. So you've got your artery, which is like that, and then it's saying, "Ooh, this is not oxygen." So already you're getting less oxygen
Yeah.
to the smoke. So it's clamping down. So now you've got fat in there from fatty foods. Maybe you've got prediabetes, so you've got sludgy, sugary blood like maple syrup. So you're traveling. So when you travel, what are you setting yourself up for when you're on a plane or long periods of time in a car?
Well, just not moving. You're sitting there. Your blood's not flowing. It's not. It's
And
stagnant.
what could you get?
Ooh.
Could you get?
These tests.
It's
Tell me.
It's called a DVT, deep vein thrombosis,
Okay.
or a blood clot.
Right.
in the
Okay.
leg.
Yeah. A blood clot. Right. Well, and
Yeah.
you're seeing more and more people, especially in older age, and it's even, I think, creeping up in age, getting put on blood thinners, and then if they have to go through something, they have to get off the blood thinners for a week or so. And I had an older friend who just passed away a little over a year ago, and he was having to do that so much because he would be on his blood thinners, but if he had to get a shot or something, he would have to get off the blood thinners to go and do that. And you're talking about 2 or 3 days that you have to go through that process. And
then
you
get
risk
your test, your lab.
right, and then you risk clotting and having a problem.
Yeah, that's a tough. That's tough, and I feel for people having to go through that. So so when we're traveling, we're at risk for a deep vein thrombosis, a clot in the leg, and
Yeah.
a thrombus is the clot itself. An embolus is when that clot says, "Oh, I'm going to jump in the artery here or the vein and take a ride. I want to go somewhere else. I don't,
Yeah.
I'm done with this area. Let's leave the
Right.
legs and see what else is out there." And they could end up in the lungs, which can cause symptoms, pulmonary embolus, you might have
Yeah.
heard of, similar to a heart attack with difficulty breathing.
Yes.
And then you can also have clots that go to the heart and the brain if they
That
get up
causes
far enough.
strokes and
Exactly. So we want to make sure that we hydrate first of all, and if you're hydrating and you have a lot of water, what's that going to make you do? Have to get up on the plane and go to the bathroom. So what did you solve? Moving your body.
right. You're
So
moving around. You're not
that's-
just sitting there. Yeah. My watch tells me time to stand.
That's it.
Yeah.
Time to stand and walk. And you can also do little isometrics in the cabin, flexing and pointing your toes and moving your arms, your wrists, just moving your body, your shoulders, doing a little bit of movement in between those get-ups when the aisle is full or the flight attendants are out.
Yeah, and I can see right now, even in the cold weather, you want to bundle up. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to walk. I mean, you're in New York. I'm in Florida, and I'm freezing right now. I've got my jacket on. I'm inside. I still have my AC on, but it's like you must be freezing in New York right now.
It is cold. I just got back from a walk, 45, 50-minute walk, and it's wind chill makes it feel like in the 20s.
Oof, yeah.
So I actually have thermal pants on right now, like fleece-lined pants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing something called 75 Hard. I don't know if you've heard of that program.
No. What is that?
Okay, I'll send you information about that. Maybe we can
Definitely.
talk about that another time.
Yeah.
But it is 2 workouts a day. One has to be outside no matter the weather conditions, snowing, raining, and I've been going out in the rain.
Why? Yeah. We just had a hurricane.
You have to go outside the door.
Exactly.
and do what it takes. Yeah, it's I'll send you the information.
That's great.
We'll talk about that. But it's good. And no drinking right now, which this is a hard time to be avoiding that, but hey, this tests your willpower.
Yep.
So let's get back to what we're talking about here. So we've got the drinking, dehydration, the smoking, illicits. This is a time of year when people are dangling like that little baggie of cocaine. Like, let's just do a little bit. And in the musician world, this is a temptation.
Unfortunately, you hear about it quite a lot. You see a lot of, very famous people, and I luckily the drug overdoses are a lot lower now. You don't see as many, but certainly a lot of the old timers that have dropped from that. It's very sad to see, and it's preventable. My buddy is a doctor, and he said it's how a drug like that, like cocaine, he said it's like it serves no purpose. It amps you up for the shortest amount of time, and it has so many bad side effects.
Yeah, and one being a heart attack.
Yeah.
So I've taken care of 19-year-olds having heart attacks.
Yeah.
From cocaine. And is it worth it to destroy your heart that's got to pump for the rest of your life? That it pumps 83,000 times a day on average.
Yeah,
that's on the lower side. So
right.
100,000 times a day. Imagine doing a push-up on your floor every second, because that's what it's doing. There's an exercise I have people do, and it's like, as I'm talking and I say, keep doing this, and after a minute they're looking at me, I'm like, okay, at ease. But that's what our heart is busy doing. It sends
pumping in the blood and pumping out of the blood. Yep.
Yeah,
and
going
it has
to your
to
brain,
travel
your kidneys,
all over.
It's like your pump. It's like the engine of your car. If it's not working, you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So we also have a point that you brought up: family stress, and you can pick your friends but not your family, and people feel obliged that they have to go to these family events, and and people know your triggers, and it brings up old traumas. And this might be a time where you say, I'm not going anymore. This doesn't work for me. No, I can't attend this year. This doesn't work for me.
Right.
And there's liberation in saying no. It's the most powerful word when it's used in your behalf by yourself to empower yourself. So, think about what changes you can do to alleviate that kind of stress, because that keeps going on. And then what happens is you have a trigger or a stressful moment at a family event, and then it stays with you because you're replaying it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's re-stressing you. Another thing that happens during the holidays is snow shoveling. And people get out there in the snow,
not
they're
in
not
Florida.
used to it. Yeah, well, lucky you.
But yeah, a friend of mine in Iowa, it just snowed the other day, and you have to deal with it. You can't get out of your driveway.
Right, but it's a different kind of exercise people aren't used to, or maybe they've tucked in a little bit more than they would have if it's the colder environments. And so we had a lot of snow shoveling accidents. This was not due to climate change. This is just an exercise intolerance leading to a heart attack in an otherwise system that is compromised and ready to have that heart attack.
Yeah.
And then people have a lack of exercise during this time of year and a lack of sleep, and all that puts them at risk. And so what I want to do is move on to an analysis of James Gandolfini, the beloved actor of The Sopranos, Tony Soprano, and talk about his last 24 hours and what happened to him and how some of these things might have been avoided, and what tactical strategy can be used or could have been put into place to possibly avoid what happened to him. So he was on a long plane flight. He went over to Italy with his son. on a vacation. And what could he have done in preparation for that trip to ensure he wasn't dehydrated and that his blood was in good condition and he was optimized for the trip? Hydration. He could have had a lot of water the night before, a lot of coconut water to bring extra electrolytes, because your heart loves potassium and magnesium, and coconut water is filled with that.
Really?
And he could have worn compression stockings, which helps to keep the blood flow out of the extremities and upward.
Yeah.
He could have walked a lot on the flight. So let's talk about this. He went on the flight. He could have been at risk for a DVT. Was he super hydrated? Like when you get into the airport, I know you get gouged for the water.
Exactly.
Price.
Yeah.
But getting a few liter bottles, because the flight attendants, if it's an overnight flight, especially, they're nowhere to be found. They're resting. They're there if you need them. But if you're in your seat and you've got to climb over someone.
Well, and just in regular life in general too, or let alone being on a plane, I think more people don't think about drinking water, and that's even just drinking water. I mean, I'm drinking water right now. It's important that you have to stay hydrated all the time and be able to. You don't realize how much it affects you until you go a few hours or all day without drinking something, and you just feel a little off.
Yeah.
As a musician,
fog, fatigue. Yeah.
As a musician playing, you almost have to force yourself to drink like that and be able to have that.
Oh, there we go. We froze a second. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So James died of a heart attack at 51, and he had gone on the long flight. Maybe he was at risk for DVTs. What was his hydration status? He was an overweight guy. So when you're overweight, your heart has to push more to perfuse against extra tissue in your body. And what that can lead to is hypertension. So I'm not saying he had these things. I'm saying he's at risk for these things. Being overweight and not eating mindfully can put you at risk for diabetes. And a lot of people are walking around pre-diabetic right now.
Yeah.
If you haven't had an A1C test and a fasting glucose test, and what's most important is a fasting insulin test, which is not on the normal assessment of lab tests. What those do is it takes a look at your blood, which our blood cells last about 90 days. It takes a look kind of like rings on a tree. There's a history there of your usage of glucose.
Interesting.
So it takes a look. It takes a look at that. But what fasting insulin does is your glucose, your fasting glucose might be cool in the 95 range. That's all right. And your A1C might be okay or borderline, saying pre-diabetic.
Yeah.
Your fasting insulin is going to tell you how hard your pancreas is working to keep you at those levels. If that level of your fasting insulin is off the hook, it means there's a problem. And it's like the dam's holding the water back, and that can pop open. So that's a really great test that's not in your normal testing. So he could have been pre-diabetic, and diabetes means you have thick, sugary blood because the insulin cannot bring in the glucose into your cells for energy. So you feel tired. The hypertension we discussed. So his last meal, I read somewhere about his last meal, was a really fatty meal. Maybe he had fried calamari. He had a lot of cocktails.
Right.
He had gone on the flight, so maybe he had a clot just sitting there ready. After his meal, he had a cigar. And then, so he smoked, so that's going to create the hypertension on top of everything else. And then he was found in his bathroom. He had his cardiac event, his heart attack, in the bathroom. And pushing down can create a stress on the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in the body, and which affects the heart. So this was like
and blood flow to the brain too.
Yeah. So this was like the perfect storm that could have happened to him. And so what could have been done differently? We touched upon a couple of things. Starting with the day, like super hydrating on the flight. compression stockings, walking. That morning, you could choose between a bacon, egg, and cheese at the airport or fruit.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the thing is like as a young person and for people watching this, it's about what can be done to really prevent this on a daily basis, let alone, I mean, if you know you're going to do something like a trip or an excursion or long periods of sitting down, I agree. You have to really make a list of that. But what are some things that people can do just in living their regular life? You talk about the exercise and staying hydrated anyway. That should be an everyday thing. But what should people? We've talked about in previous conversations about dairy consumption is part of that too in a healthy lifestyle. So what can people kind of do as young people moving forward, who maybe think they're in good condition?
Yes. Well, the number one root cause of all diseases pretty much is inflammation. So what you want to do is not get your body in an inflammatory state. And how do you prevent that? By staying away from fried foods. So instead of those fries on the side of a Angus burger, like another thing is eat qualitatively. So we talked about in another podcast of the hamburger at McDonald's not equaling a grass-fed Angus from a farm in Tennessee, let's say. They have a lot of Angus and
you mean McDonald's isn't fresh?
Oh my gosh, it's like there's all kinds of stuff in there. Yeah. And so qualitatively and having some willpower and making a change to have that qualitative. Making a mindful choice of banging cocktails versus and with all the sugars and stuff like in a margarita or a mixed drink, having something that's going to have some kind of health benefit like a red wine, which is going to have resveratrol, an organic wine. So look for organic, or if you can't find organic, look for something grown on an island like Sicily. Do you think there's a pest problem in Sicily? Right. It's an island. They're not spraying over there or the islands off Spain. So, and those are some beautiful wines, Canary Islands.
Nice. Well, and that's and you're saying you're not telling people you don't drink at all. It's a terrible thing. You're saying just look for the right things that have benefits as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's a strategy, a tactical strategy.
Except cocaine. Don't do cocaine.
Yeah,
public service announcement. Don't do cocaine.
Yeah, I would say pass on that. That's a hard pass. Yeah. Instead, go for a great walk. You'll get the same boost of dopamine and everything. Go for a long walk. Make sure you're getting exercise every day, whether it be even a walk-in, like a 45-minute walk at a nice clip. Make sure you're getting enough rest. If you have trouble sleeping, really address that. I've had problems in the past with that, and I found a great tea, and I found some other things that have helped me tremendously, and it's game-changing. Make sure you're protected from EMFs. So, yes, EMFs can, and our bodies are not meant to have all that electricity. There is a product that it's a medical device that I'm using for my patients and representing and recommending, and it's a low pulse electromagnetic frequency. So 5G and all that is a high frequency, whereas this is a low healthful frequency. It's just like oxygen. When you have regular oxygen, we're only breathing 21%, but when on a ventilator, you're blowing up to 100%. You want to get people off of that because it's toxic. So things can be good for you in a small dose. It's all dependent upon dosing, and bad for you in a higher dose. I like CBD. CBD topically for everyone is such a game changer on inflammation.
I have friends that use that certain CBD, and again, it doesn't have to have THC in it. And CBD's been around a long time without the THC in it, and it does have the health benefits for people with neuropathy and digestive problems, and people can use it. Even I've given CBD to my dogs. If you have fireworks on the 4th of July and they're stressed out a little bit, you can, for the right kind of CBD, you can give to your pets.
Exactly, and the right dosage. Yeah. That's a great idea. And we're looking into that for next 4th of July. So I will remember that.
Yeah.
Because we have a new puppy.
Oh.
Yeah, let's see, what else can we do? I'd say inflammation is numero uno.
Yeah.
Another thing is for your listeners on this podcast is dairy. And dairy creates an acidic environment. Anything that creates an acidic environment also leads to inflammation. And what can you take every day that helps the inflammatory process is turmeric capsules. So, or adding in turmeric with pepper into your food. And the point
I have heard about the turmeric. Yeah,
but the point of using black pepper in combination is it helps the bioavailability. It helps your body to be able to absorb the turmeric. If you don't have it, it's like eating sand. Your body won't use it and it'll pass through. So turmeric with black pepper, even in a drink, if you get turmeric, black pepper.
Really?
So these capsules, and I use a company called Gaia, Gaia. They have the pepper in it as well already. So you could have one of those in the morning, one at night, and you're really like, so you had a fried dinner or you had some fried food. Okay.
Yeah.
So have tactical strategy, have that turmeric. You shouldn't be having that thinking, oh, I'm protected, but it's just to help you with that. And it's an everyday thing that can help you. But
it's the back and forth too. Like you just mentioned, you know, if you're not saying don't completely go off of these things, you live your life, but it's about, and I talked about this on my last podcast with Frank Del Pizzo, talking about losing all that weight. It's not saying don't do it. Just know that if you're going to have a big dinner like that, you're going out with friends, you know you're going to get that pasta with the martini or whatever, then plan ahead for that when you know that's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And look at the menu options and see like what's going to be good, what's good here. I mean, I used to be staunchly vegan, and now I've gone off of that a little bit for qualitative foods. And true confession, when we were in Nashville, everything went out the window, but the quality
is fried chicken is fried chicken, especially in Nashville.
I didn't have chicken, did not have chicken, but biscuits definitely, and barbecue definitely. But the animals
best
down there are healthy, and you're eating what that animal ate. And if, like for example, cows on these feeding operations are fed corn and soy. They're both GMO. So what they're eating, you're eating. And cows by nature don't eat that stuff. They're grazing in pasture.
They want to eat grass.
So you want a cow from grass, by a farm up, here in New York, upstate, or, wherever you are, seeing the farmers, definitely seeing the farmers. But I say get rid of dairy. And the reason why is that is a juice made for a baby of that species. And even that species weans that baby. So we're having something from another species where the hormones and the antibodies and the protein in milk called casein are toxic for humans. And the ultimate karma is it leads to breast and prostate cancer. I'm referencing a book called The China Study by T. Colin Campbell, who was a researcher at Cornell. And he did a lot of research on it, which lambasted him, because if you're talking against the dairy industry,
there's been a lot of talk about that, and the big push, especially after World War II, into the dairy market and everything. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's subsidized.
The whole Got Milk ad campaign. Yeah.
Yep. And we remember that was genius marketing. But the point is it's not healthy for human consumption. Even that species weans their own babies off of it. So what can you do instead? Well, there's organic oat milk, because if it's not organic, it's been sprayed. Almond milk is an alternative, but that's not good for the environment. Like, most almonds come from California, and there's a drought out there, and you want to get organic ones if you can. And a lot of thoughtfully minded coffee houses will have a little upcharge for it. They'll offer it, but they'll upcharge you a little bit. But it's worth it. It's a little harder to come by. And then there's coconut yogurts for yogurt substitutes. There are amazing. There's a place called Essex Market here in New York, and they have a vegan cheese store, and you could get blue, you could get ash over it, you could get Munster. I mean, you could get all these different types of cheese that
Yeah.
you can't tell, and they melt down. I mean, some of it can be full of oils, and vegan burgers, unless you're having a black bean patty or some kind of bean burger,
Yeah.
look at the ingredients. There's mushroom burgers, there's mushroom grain, mushroom walnut. Look at the ingredients. But if these prefabbed ones that start with a B or an I,
Yeah.
you know who they have behind them? A lot of them have a gentleman that owns most of our real estate for agriculture now.
Yeah, exactly.
His last name rhymes with Hates. And he owns 50% of our agriculture in this country. So that should be alarming to people. And this is why we need to patronize our farmers. And a lot of farmers at the market, ask them if they grow organically. They might not have that green USDA sign that costs about $40,000 for New York farmers here to have.
Yeah, that's
so you have to show that your produce was raised as in nature, but GMOs do not. Yeah. So what is wrong here? We've got a completely
and you're seeing this genetically modified food now that, like you mentioned, even the vegan stuff that is supposedly healthier, and when you see all the ingredients that go into it, and then you see beef is beef, but you have to know where the beef is coming from, and that's the hard part. But if you're cooking it yourself and you get the meat from a butcher, you can find that stuff out. And even if you go to the grocery store and you read it, spend a little extra time and read it and understand where it's coming from, and you'll live a healthier life, and you'll feel better too.
You'll feel better, and exactly. And I want to hit the point of cholesterol here. When our cholesterol is off, the first thing in our Western medical system is we have a diagnosis. And based on that diagnosis, there's something called ICD-10 coding. Based on that diagnosis, these are the drugs you can prescribe.
Right.
So it's a one-size-fits-all model. But that's not true for what's happening. Everybody has unique individual chemistry set with a lot of factors impacting that.
Right.
And cholesterol is protective. Our brain needs it. And right now we have the statins as being the most highly prescribed drug in this country. And they've lowered the threshold. It used to be 220 was high and necessitated a prescription for cholesterol. So when you lower that threshold, what can you do? What do doctors need to do? Prescribe more.
Yeah, right. Well, and the problem, and it's sad to see this, because they just want to push somebody onto a drug and then let me know how it goes. And even when you see these drug commercials on TV, there's so many side effects. Death might be a side effect. Sorry, but it'll make my elbow feel better. Where
heart failure is a side effect of statins.
Exactly, which is death. and so if people can understand that if there's something wrong with them, and they figure out a change in lifestyle or a change in something else in their life, then they don't have to necessarily go on these drugs that will cause more side effects that get them put on other drugs.
Exactly. And that's kind of the focus of my program is Western medicine leaves us here, but it's not enough. We have to get all the way out to the sides of the 180 degrees.
Right.
And we have to get the whole panorama. And what can we do? And these tactical strategies are part of it, because what we want to do is get off those meds. Now, some of these meds our body does need, like after a heart attack, our heart needs that rest. It needs the help of a beta blocker. It needs emergency help. But the goal is to get off that. How can we do that? What can we employ to do that? Statins are so bad because they decrease something called our CoQ10 enzyme, and anybody on a statin should be supplementing with that enzyme to help their heart out. That's part of the reason why we get the muscle pains and joint pains. And it can also lead to kidney and liver disease, and as I mentioned, heart failure and dementia. We're taking away cholesterol, and our brain uses the most cholesterol in our body. So really, and what the statins do is they take down the LDL, which is considered the bad cholesterol, but really that's the patchwork. That's helping to patch up problems.
You have
in
to
our
have
arteries.
the ecosystem and all of it moving around.
Yeah. And if you take all that away, there's going to be compensation by the body in some manner. And that's another disease process.
Yeah.
Dementia. So unfortunately, doctors are tied to this standard
Yeah.
of care, and the standard of care is a legal term that they have to
Of
follow,
course.
or they
Yeah.
could be
Uh-huh.
sued
Loser.
because
Yeah.
they're not following
Mm-hmm.
the ICD-10 protocol. Yeah.
Well, and you talk about your program, where I have your website up here, Heart to Soul CW. But where can people find your program and kind of
As
get
soon
more
as they
info?
log on to my website, they'll find my program, and there's two options. There's one where you can work on your own, and this is a 9-week program meant to go a week at a time because it takes a long time to get sick. And this is adding on habit stacking each week. So we're adding on new little habits and
Nice.
taking out some old. And
Yeah.
week by week, those compound into positive health benefits.
Great.
So the positive habit stacking, and we start with mindset, because a lot of patients who have had a heart problem, or people in general, nobody's addressed their mindset, and where are you coming from? How are you feeling? What are your stressors? What are things you can do? Even into breath work. So
Yeah.
breathing from your belly, and here again on the plane flight, breathing from your belly enables your parasympathetic, your rest and digest, your chill out mode when you breathe in that. And what does that also do? It opens up these little air sacs in the bottom of your lungs called alveoli.
That you never use. Yeah, my friend who I said mentioned, he passed away a little over a year ago, but he had COPD. And most people who have COPD, how many years do they usually live if you have COPD? What's the average?
Not that long, because you're not oxygenating. You have a tough time oxygenating.
And so it's normally like 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah.
He had COPD for 13, 14 years.
Wow.
And he would just constantly work on his breathing, and he said he had I think by the end he was down to 1/3 of one lung that was really functioning. And so you have to just it's deep breathing, it's being able to get into your lungs are humongous. So, and you hardly use any of your lungs, so people get short of breath. You have to just sit there and consciously think about it and breathe deep and exhale all the way as well. Make sure every bit of your breath is out, and then do it again, and you'll find that you'll have more and more lung retention and more oxygen flow. It'll slow your heart rate down too. If you get stressed out or dealing with some stress, you do that for 2 seconds, 2 or 3 seconds, and it'll calm your heart rate down.
Yeah, there's a little trick you could do called box breathing. First of all, to address a long exhale, that's absolutely correct, is inhaling, but from your belly. Because when we get scared, what happens? You go, oh, that's a sympathetic drive. That's going to, breathing from your chest. Like
and it's only going in a certain amount. You're not getting that full.
Correct. Yeah. So you want to fill those lungs up by breathing through your belly. It moves your diaphragm down. That hits your vagus nerve, puts you in chillax. That helps your heart, decreases stress. And then you can also do something called box breathing, which is inhaling to 4 or 5, and then holding for 5, exhaling for 5, and then holding for 5. And that's just a nice little circle of breathing that you can do to kind of calm yourself down, especially if you're having the stress during the holidays. There's a method of breathing called Buteyko breathing. I believe it's called Buteko. There's also a gentleman called Wim Hof, Wimhof, and he does a lot of cold water therapy. And I would suggest talking to your doctor about that, because some of his therapies can be shocking to the heart if you have a heart condition.
You see these the ice baths that people do, and I don't know how people do that.
Well, it's really good for inflammation.
And it boosts your circulation, right?
Yeah, it's really good. Also a cold shower, or just gradually when you're in the shower, and you in Florida, I know it's freezing there.
It is.
At, what, 40 degrees?
40 degrees, yes.
So what you can do is start turning down the hot and turning down the hot and turning up the cold as you're in the shower, and just hang out for a few minutes. Hit any trouble spots like your knees or hips, and you do feel energized after that, I must say. And that's not too shocking because it's gradual to your body, but you do feel energized. And it's
you run out of coffee, go with the cold water.
Yeah. And you know what? I have a win. I did that. All these little wins that you can achieve empower you and make you feel better. That's the mentality. That resistance, or I wish this said willpower. You know, it's your willpower. It's you against you. You're keeping your foot on the gas for your health. You're not putting your foot on the brake and chilling like everyone else is. It's separation season right now. So you're moving ahead while everybody else is thickening their blood on their couch.
Yes.
You know?
So get up, walk around. You're watching this podcast on your phone. Get up, walk around while you're watching it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I hope this helped. I hope this was great information for your listeners.
Well, and tell us about your book as well. It's Heart to Soul. Yeah. So tell us about your book.
So I wrote my book for heart attack survivors. It's Heart to Soul Cardiac Wellness.
There it is. Yep.
Yes. And it's an inspiring plan to holistically prevent and recover from heart disease.
Excellent.
And I also have information. So it's the 9-week plan, but I've incorporated so much more into my program. And my program also that you'll find on my website has 2 options. As I was saying, it is without coaching and with coaching. And the coaching is me presenting something like this the first and third Wednesday of each month. It's 11:30 Eastern Standard Time for an hour or more. And it's also your chance as a heart patient, if you're a heart patient, to network with other heart survivors like yourself. So we put our location in the chat. That's your support network. You are making new friends that are going through the same thing you're going through.
Excellent.
But I wrote the book because heart patients were released into the wild. They are discharged and it's like, good luck. And it's like, well, what do I do? And I had a lot more empathy for people, and also like, how do you prepare? So for the way that I started this is I got a phone call, and that was my phone call to action. And this is in my masterclass on my website, which is free, but I discuss how I started my program.
Yeah.
And it was a dear friend of mine, and she had to have open heart surgery.
Oh, wow.
And she was completely at a loss. Everybody, including the doctors and nurses and her family and friends, said, "Oh, you'll be fine." No, you're having your heart opened, your valve replaced, and a bypass graft put in. That is the scariest thing you could possibly go through, because going into that surgery, you don't know if you'll come out alive. So you say your goodbyes, you plan everything, because there's no for sureties. And I'm happy to say she's approaching her 5th heart anniversary pretty soon.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Very nice. That's awesome.
And she did great. And what I did is I worked with her, and the work that I did was the basis for the plan I put together here.
Very nice.
I've added so much more content, and I have guest speakers in my program as well, promoting other healing modalities that you might not have heard of, such as Ayurveda or essential oils. And here's another thing for our traveling musicians. If you have to use a mask on a flight, let's say that happens again.
Yeah.
Or you just feel comfortable, someone's coughing next to you or whatever, you just feel more comfortable wearing that. No judgment. But what can you do to game up? Throw in some rosemary oil.
Interesting.
Rosemary is antimicrobial and antibacterial. And I think it's also antifungal.
And throw it away after 20 minutes.
Surgeons do this. Surgeons do this because if they're operating in the colon or the GI, that's kind of noxious odor. So they drop essential oils in their masks.
Interesting.
Drop some oils in there. Protect your respiratory.
And don't keep your mask in your pocket or your purse, because it's full of bacteria as well.
Yeah. But there's a whole thing on that. But if you feel that you have to do that, game it up a little bit. Why not?
Excellent.
Yeah.
So your book, Heart to Soul, go to your website, hearttosoulcw.com, get on the program, check out, and you have your newsletter here, the Rhythm Strip.
Oh yes,
Very
join
nice.
the Rhythm Strip, because I'll be letting you know about talks like this, book recommendations.
What is the program called as well, by the way?
It's called the Heart Health Accelerator.
Okay.
Yes, Heart Health Accelerator. a book I'd like to recommend, other than my own, is Dying to Be Free. Okay. And it's by Leland Stillman, MD. And this is a young guy who looks like Doogie Howser. But he's been around the block. He's done all kinds of Western medicine, and he's moved more to functional medicine. And he discusses breathing, EMFs, why when we are forced to do things, it doesn't come out for our best health outcomes. He talks about big tech, big pharma, and big food, and how those are all strategized to work against us. I speak about that in my book as well, and I call it Sad, Sad Sam. Sad, Sad Sam. And Sad, Sad Sam means the standard American diet leads to the standard American diseases, which leads to the standard American medications.
Yeah.
And our medical system needs help because we're number 52 in countries health-wise, yet we spend over $4 trillion a year. Almost 20% of our gross domestic product is spent on healthcare.
Yeah.
And that is atrocious. Those are bad
crazy
numbers. And nothing's changed. Same top 10 diseases. Heart disease kills more people than every cancer combined, and it's unacceptable.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And you're on Instagram at Heart Health Accelerator and also Heart to Soul CW. People can check that out, follow along. I see you post your videos on your walk. That's nice.
Yes.
I should start doing that.
Visit me there, DM me there. If you want to repost something, I'll post it. But definitely, and you can reach me through my website as well. Excellent. And I want to be there to help people, and I want to wish everyone, do your best, employ those little strategies for your travel this season. Say no, set up your boundaries if you have to. It's a new year, so you can empower yourself and have a great Christmas and Hanukkah.
Yes,
and whatever else you're celebrating.
Exactly. Well, thank you for all the information. It's really, that people need it, and sometimes they just need the little push, and it's all about believing in yourself and doing it. So, before we go, a couple little things. This is a music podcast, so I want to talk about what for stress relief too, and what kind of music do you listen to when you were a nurse, in the hospital? What put you through the day?
It's a great question. Right now, I have to say we're playing a lot of classical because we have a puppy that is recuperating from an amputation.
Aww.
He got hit by a car, and we had just gotten him. And that has helped him and helped us with our stress. And actually, when I worked in the hospital, I used to walk to and from. There's my guy. And I used to walk to and from, and I would listen to music on the way or podcasts.
Yeah.
But music, I think, is whatever lights you up. So we've got on play here, we've got anything from country to rap to the Rolling Stones to Bob Dylan to Eric Clapton to anything that makes you feel good. One thing I do want to say is hertz is very important. And 528 hertz music, you can look at playlists and what is it called? Binaural beats are very good and very healing. So binaural beats music and which is kind of like surround sound in your brain.
Yeah.
And
certain tones,
Yes, and then the frequency, hertz. So if you look at 528, you'll it's the most healing for your DNA.
Very nice.
So there you go. Yeah. EMFs are killing our DNA and our mitochondria and causing our cells to become porous. This helps to heal that. So again, another little hack, but anything that makes you happy and feel good and hits your body. Your music is great. I listen to your voodoo song.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, anything that makes you feel great is good and makes you smile.
Great. Yeah, definitely. My mom's a nurse, and she knew a doctor at the hospital that he listened whenever he'd do his surgeries. He'd be blasting heavy metal music.
Well, if that's
whatever works, it calmed them down.
Yeah, if that's, and I know people like that who that is their jam. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's a band called Blood Clot, I think, that it's like really out there. But hey,
perfect.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So Mike, thank you for having me on.
Thank you
great
for coming
questions.
on. Yes.
Great
really
input as always. And
excellent.
Have a great Christmas.
You too. Merry Christmas.
Okay.
Again,
so
everybody.
Much.
Mary Yuter, RN, New York. Go to hearttosoulcw.com. Mary, thank you. As we close out the show, don't forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, like this video, comment down below what you thought and what you're doing for the holiday season, and subscribe to the channel and never miss a video, live gig videos, the Imbasciani Chronicles podcast, and the Loft Sessions, and some other fun reaction videos. Hope everybody has a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you on the next episode.